we're living in a culture where we're hit 24/7 with that unlovability factor, the who you need to be loved, or that inner critic that's in your head. And if that's your source of danger, and that's your source of stress, and that's your source of, discomfort, that's with you 24/7, right? And so you never escape. So that obviously begins to affect our, stress levels and all of our other parts physically. And so there's so much that goes with that. And so it is about, number one, starting with that awareness that it's, once again, not something wrong with you. It's training, it's some wiring, it's all of those things, because that'll begin to release that feeling that this is impossible. I can't overcome this because it's me. I'm what's flawed. And how do I get away from what's flawed? I have to live with it and realizing, no, that's not the case. And then number two, what worked for me was then saying, okay, now how do I reprogram that part of me? How do I begin to move away from the inner critic, which felt so natural to me? It was just like me. I felt like that was me. So first I had to realize I'm not my thoughts, right? We hear a lot about that, Michael Singer's book, Untethered Soul. I mean, there's just so many, Eckhart Tolle and others who talk a lot about you are not your thoughts. And we're so identified with our thinking that when we have an inner critic thought or a negative thought about ourselves, we go, oh, well, that must be true because I'm saying it about myself. And so the de-identification from the thoughts that then allows me to go, oh, I can change my thoughts because I have a brain that does what a brain does. It produces thoughts. And I don't go around and say I'm my liver. I have a liver. It's an organ that produces, that cleanses my system. So I'm not walking around going, I'm my liver. But I do go around saying, like, thinking that I am what I think. But we're not. And so we start there as well to go, you are not your thoughts. And then how do I begin to reprogram thoughts, right? And so there's a real discomfort for me, at least, and for others that I work with and coach, that when they first try to change those thoughts, it feels so uncomfortable to look yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. It feels so like untrue. It doesn't feel even like, like reality. It feels like I'm lying to myself. Got to realize that reprogramming feels uncomfortable. Right. And so when we are reprogramming ourselves, our systems will try to reject it and spit it out. And that's just simply because we've lived for 10, 20, 40, 50 years, however long, with a different set of programming. And now we have to have the same patience with ourselves to reprogram that we endured the programming of the negativity. Now we have to have that same endurance to program ourselves in the positive way. And I do a whole session with people about how they can begin to reprogram their thinking and what does that look like. So, yeah.
Wow. So is this kind of like where that whole concept of reparenting yourself comes in? Because I mean, a lot of these, not saying that everyone had this traumatic childhood or this horrible childhood, but our perceptions, how we perceive whatever situation was, or some little comment, some offhanded comment someone might have made to us in our childhood can change the trajectory of our entire life, even if it wasn't meant to be mean or off-putting. We can internalize that, and that can create that negative wiring, like you say. So is it like this treating ourselves like a baby, essentially, or a toddler, relearning what connection is?
Absolutely. And having deep, deep levels of compassion for that part of yourself, to be able to see that part of yourself that heard those words, that heard that you're unlovable or unworthy, or whatever the joke was, or whatever the thing was that was said to you that stuck with you, that you can immediately think of, and then it triggers all those feelings again. Got to have compassion for that part of you that experienced that and see that part with love.